Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening, depending on your time zone and depending on when you are watching this. It is Thursday, the 11th of June, 2020, Hugh Laurie's birthday. Happy birthday, Hugh. I'm James Innes, and this is my YouTube show, The Jobs Guru. I'm delighted to see you here today for today's episode. I extend a very warm welcome to all those who have subscribed since the last episode. And if you haven't yet subscribed, then please do think about subscribing so that you don't miss out on the next episode. In today's show, I'm going to be taking a look at the latest workplace, jobs, career and employment news, where I have no choice but to mention the B word again. Yes, Brexit. I would as always be covering a question from one of my viewers. I'll be talking about the rise of LinkedIn. And next in the interview question series, I'll be asking, if you were an elephant, what would you do with your trunk? Answers on a postcard, please, but let's keep it clean. If you have any questions or comments as you watch, then do please let me have them below. And if you like what you see, then do please hit that YouTube thumbs up. So first, as always, I've had a good read of all the main news headlines, and in particular the workplace, jobs, careers and employment-related headlines. As usual, there is a lot happening in the world. No further news of mass redundancy since yesterday, but that doesn't mean it's all quiet on the employment front by any means. I am unusually going to focus on just one story today, from my friends and colleagues at BBC News, business editor Simon Jack to be precise. Headline, firms can't cope with no deal and virus, says CBI boss. Now, it's not ostensibly a piece about employment per se, but the impact on employment is blatantly obvious. You don't need to be a rocket science to work it out. So in a nutshell, Dame Carolyn Fairbairn, the outgoing boss of the industry body, the CBI, the Confederation of British Industry, she said that British firms simply do not have the resilience to cope with a no-deal Brexit after the battering of the coronavirus crisis. She said, and I quote, "As one member put it to me, just because the house is on fire, it doesn't make it okay to set fire to the garden shed." You've got to love that turn of phrase. Brexit trade negotiations have not been going well between the UK and the EU. Quelle surprise. Dame Carolyn told the BBC that any buffers to cope with the additional cost and planning of an exit from the EU customs union and single market without a deal had been exhausted by the COVID-19 pandemic. I shall quote Dame Carolyn again. "The resilience of British business is absolutely on the floor. The firms that I speak to have not a spare moment to plan for a no-trade deal Brexit at the end of the year. That is the common sense voice that needs to find its way into these negotiations. If we have a political timescale that takes us to a brinkmanship deal in December, that will be catastrophic for British business. They will not be ready." So relations between business groups and the government have been strained ever since the campaign leading up to the EU referendum back in 2016, when business groups, including the CBI, warned of the potential economic damage to the UK economy, whose biggest customer is the EU. So my view on all this? Well, it makes my blood boil. I'm not by any means a hardcore Remainer or Remoaner. The EU is far from perfect. I'm not a great fan of Michel Barnier either, for that matter. But come on, now is not the time for the UK to be taking or making a stand on the Brexit front. We kind of have other things to worry about, like tens of thousands of people dead, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, losing their jobs. Surely the sensible thing to do would be to shelve this whole Brexit mess for 6 months, a year even. So, on to that question from one of my viewers. Today's question has been sent in by Carl in Leeds. Carl says, "Dear James, I am quite a private person, but I work in a very large open plan office." Okay, yes, and I'm kind of not looking forward to returning, he says. Okay. I keep getting friend and follow requests on various social media channels like Facebook and Instagram from people at work. Some I barely know, some who I do know and don't really get on with, and some who I clearly have mutual friends in the office with. I feel pressured to accept these people rather than single myself out as unfriendly or difficult, but I also worry it's an intrusion into my private life, and the ones I don't know or necessarily get on with simply want to be nosy. Personally, I would rather keep my personal photos and my life outside of the office to my real friends. What's the best way round this? What do you recommend? Well, Carl in Leeds, you are perfectly entitled to be a relatively private person. On the other hand, more, shall we say, gregarious people, they might have difficulty understanding that. Now, you could get clever with your privacy settings on Facebook to control who sees what, and then you can maybe accept colleagues as friends. But why bother? Personally, I would just leave any such Facebook friend requests hanging. You don't accept them, but don't delete them either. And if anyone asks, just say casually that you hardly use Facebook and hadn't noticed their request. Just talk your way out of it. When it comes to Instagram and Twitter, I think your best bet in both cases is to set your accounts to private so that only your real friends have access. And again, you can just fob anyone else off with the excuse that you're not really into social media. Not everybody is. From a career point of view, though, if you're not already on LinkedIn, then do get yourself there fast. It's so important these days, and do make friends with all of your colleagues on there, whether you like them or not. At the very least, it may help to compensate for you not wishing to engage with them on other more personal forms of social media. Now, I'm always open to interesting new questions from my viewers. If you've got a workplace, jobs, careers, or employment-related question for me, then do please type it into that comment section below, and I may well feature it in a future episode of this show. And if I do, then one of my limited edition collector's item Jobs Brew coffee mugs will be yours. I don't know about you, but I sure needed my coffee this morning. It's been a long week. Okay, now each day, as well as answering one viewer's specific question, like Carl's, I also look into a specific issue which has been raised by a number of different viewers. And today I'm going to shine my spotlight on LinkedIn. I get all sorts of questions about LinkedIn. LinkedIn has taken off like a rocket in recent years. Since 2005, it's grown by over 1,000%, from 500,000 users to well over 500 million. And with 24 million users, the UK ranks 5th in the world in terms of the total number of users in a country. But at 37%, we're second only to the USA in terms of the percentage of the population. But that's based on the whole population. What about the percentage of the so-called working age population? Well, that's 57%, and it continues to grow. So it doesn't take a brain surgeon to see why I very strongly recommend getting yourself on LinkedIn, like Carl, and if you're on there already, why I suggest you pull out all the stops to make sure that your profile stands out from the crowd. Need any help with this? Then please come and visit us at jamesinnis.group. Now, as well as heading up jamesinnis.group, I'm also the UK's best-selling careers author. Amongst my titles is, I've got one to hand here, the interview, question and answer book. Slightly battered copy, but it's one I refer to on a regular basis. It is, as they say, available in all good bookshops, or if you'd like a signed copy from yours truly, then there's a description in the link, a link in the description to this video. That's what I'm trying to say. Each week, I'm taking questions from that book, looking at how to answer them. At the moment, I'm taking those questions from the chapter which I entitled Weird and Wonderful Questions. Today's question: if you were an elephant, what would you do with your trunk? Similar questions include, if you were a rhino, what would you do with a horn? Gosh, I think it's getting worse. Back to the question in hand. If you were an elephant, what would you do with your trunk? Now, many thanks to Google for this one. And I mean the company who invented it. I don't mean I just stumbled on it whilst I was, playing around on Google. No, Google, the company, actually created this question for interviews. It's designed to test your creative thinking. It's what we'd call a weird classic, and you can take it as seriously as you want to or not. The interviewer doesn't really want to know about the various different possible usages of elephants' trunks, but instead just wants to see if you're going to let yourself be thrown by the question and fall silent, which would especially not be recommended if the position you're interviewed for requires a creative thinker. So, how to answer? Well, let's make something clear. There are no incorrect answers to this question. Just try to relax and think of what you could do professionally in the role that you're applying for if you had a trunk. Maybe sit like an extra arm, maybe, Have a little think about your CV, the specification for the role, the industry, and, look for inspiration to come up with some ideas. As usual, I have plucked a little example from my book for you. As an executive PA, I'm always juggling hundreds of tasks at the same time. I like to stay on top of everything I do, and so having a trunk would be a godsend. I could do my administration twice as fast, and with hands-free phone technology, I could be on the phone, organising events, sending invoices, and tweeting all at the same time. Sounds exhausting. It could be a little awkward when I have to meet and greet clients, but if it was retractable and you could put it away when you wanted, then I think everyone would want one. Right, okay, a retractable trunk, that's an interesting concept there. Actually, I think one of the most entertaining answers I've heard to this question was, it would be very useful for doing up my swimsuit or for undoing my dresses. I wouldn't need my husband anymore. I love that one. As answers go, it certainly shows original and creative thinking, doesn't it? Not to mention a sense of humour. So I'm currently updating this book, the interview question and answer book, working on a brand new edition, which will be the 3rd edition of that book. So if you have any interview questions, they don't have to be weird and wonderful, they could be tough and nasty, whatever. And if you think I should be considering them for possible inclusion, please do let me know in the comments section below. And if I use your question, then obviously there will be a complimentary signed copy of that new edition for you. I may even throw in a free interview coaching session with me, if you like, the man who literally wrote the book on interviews. Or, of course, you can just pop along and book a session at jamesinnes.group. So now we're not far from the end of today's show. I'll be back next week, Tuesday. Remember, this show is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, each and almost every week. Just two more things. First, I must squeeze in some routine but important requests. Do please check me out on social media and connect, follow, or otherwise stalk me, but please don't troll me. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, about the show in general, or indeed about life, the universe, the decline and fall of newspapers, whatever, do please let me have them below. If you like this episode, then do please hit it with the YouTube thumbs up. If you've kindly given me a thumbs up, please think about subscribing so you don't miss out on the next episode. Also, you can ring that bell so you can receive notifications when I upload new episodes. And if you already rung that bell, well, thank you. Finally, what is happening in the next episode? Well, in Tuesday's show, I'll be chatting about a variety of things, including, next in the interview question series, what shapes are best for manholes? Sounds obvious, does it? You've got the weekend to think about it. I do hope you'll tune in. Thank you for watching today. Keep safe and be well, my friends. Goodbye.